Hello, welcome to my retirement roadmap. This is the final video in a series of videos about investing in fitness. So, I do want to talk about a very important subject, which there's brain health and mental health that I wanted to close this out with. And I guess I really need to give a qualification here. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychotherapist. I don't have any training in these areas. So these are just things that I have learned along the way that are helpful for me and I'm hoping will be helpful for others as well as we invest in our fitness in retirement, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's talk about brain health for a minute. And when I'm talking about brain health, is keeping our brain sharp. I am personally probably a little more paranoid than I should be about cognitive decline. Okay, because I do have some history of that in my family, and although what I've learned is it's probably only 4% hereditary. I worry about it. My father passed away from Alzheimer's, and so I saw how that goes, and I'm like, I'm really worried about it for myself, and I'm like, what can I do to try to prevent that? And I'm out there learning and trying to find out what the latest science or whatever you call it is on that. Our just basically trying to keep our brains healthy and to delay or prevent cognitive decline. The one thing I've learned, it sounds pretty good. I think, let's hope it is, that it said if you are doing the physical fitness and you're eating a nutritious diet, that's like 85% of taking care of your brain. It's really because that stuff does feed our brain in keeping ourselves fitness. So I think that's really important. I like to think of that. That gives me an extra incentive to do the physical fitness and also eating correctly. Okay, so then the next thing you hear is, how do we exercise our brain? Obviously can't get just little weights out and our brain does like it does we do with our arms, etc. So how do you do that? And I like, there's a lot out there now. I mean, there are apps on your phone that can help work your brain. I know I've heard this, and I think this makes sense, is like doing the crossword puzzles make your brains work. I do know that there's that thing called muscle memory, even though the brain is not a muscle, it's an organ, according to my research. But our brains will become lazy if we keep doing the same thing over and over again. You got to give it new stuff. But the one thing I do understand, which kind of makes sense to me, is if you're learning things, learning new things, learning difficult concepts, that really does exercise our brain. And so I'll put a plug in for retirement, finances, right? So if you can learn how the Roth money, the 5-year rule on that. Yeah, if you can master that your brain's in really good shape. That'd be a good exercise. Like, try to figure that one out. The 5-year rules for Roth withdrawals, and there are two of them, not just one. Two. Anyway, I digress. Let's move along. Okay, so I think that these brain exercises are important. Again, for me personally, I'm like, I've got to learn new stuff, and I do like learning new things. So that's super important, in my opinion, for brain health. The other thing I hear and see this over and over again: sleep is important. Make sure do get sleep. Try to get good sleeping habits, and then right along with that is napping. I've heard that. I like that. Maybe that's me, searching out for confirmation bias, just to get that short nap during the day to just let our brain rest for a few minutes, not oversleep. So I like that. That's an excuse I use to try to get my nap every day, right? Because I'm worried about my my brain health. So that's enough. I think enough for our brain health. Again, and it's I think it kind of fits back in physical fitness, but I've separated it out, and I've also put it next to mental health. And this part, again, I am so not trained or qualified to talk about mental health, but there are some observations that I think are super important, and especially for retirement. I'm going to give an extreme example here. I think it's important to talk about things like this, because I hear this. For people who have had careers where that's kind of what made, gave them meaning and purpose in life in their careers, especially that was their social network, or it made them feel like they were contributing. I mean, if you think about it, people, I think school teachers fit into this because they are really helping people's lives change, students' lives change very much so. So that's super important. And in when they get into retirement, that kind of goes away, right? It's not there anymore. And this extreme example, I was listening to an audiobook. I listen to audiobooks, and this was from a financial planner. This financial planner, he was the financial planner for his parents, and his mother was a hospice nurse, okay, in the hospice program, and she worked with people who were dying, right? And her job was to help them facilitate that process. A very, very important job, obviously. And the company that was running this hospice, they were, I guess, new management or whatever came in, and they're like, well, we're not so much customer focused anymore. We're more focused on the bottom line. And it just became an unpleasant experience for this person. And I'm hoping I get this all correct. But anyway, so her son ran the numbers and said, yeah, you're financially, you're fine. You can retire. It's not going to be an issue. And she retired. And so, I mean, I remember when I was listening to this audiobook, I remember exactly when I heard this, of what it was. But she ended up, after a few months, that she took her life because she just was so unhappy that she had lost all of this fulfillment and the purpose and meaning for her life. And it's really kind of sad. But my point in that is, it's important, especially in retirement, that we are very cognizant of our mental health and pay particular attention to it. Because when we move into retirement, some of those things that we had before are gone, supports for us, and it can kind of expose things. And not to get too far down this extreme area, but it was funny because I went to a city council meeting less than a week ago. I went to the city council, and these city council meetings are interesting because people can just sign up to talk about whatever you want, right? So this person got up and he was talking about the 988, which is the U.S. hotline for, I guess, call it suicide prevention, 988. And he said, if there's anything you take away from my 3 minutes, you only get 3 minutes. If you said my 3 minutes is you remember 988 for the suicide prevention line. And he also said, the other thing that kind of resonated with me too is, hey, listen, if you're talking to a friend and they seem very depressed and whatnot, like, just ask them, are you thinking about suicide? I mean, just the thought that they know that you're asking about it can help a person. So I thought and I decided I wanted to go ahead and share that in our discussion here while I've kind of got people's attention. I think it's important. And I've even heard this study. I don't know if it's clickbait or not. It kind of doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem intuitive at all. But I've heard that on average, retired people have more depression than people who are working. Whereas you think it would be the flip side. I would think it's the flip side, right? I mean, you retire, you don't have all the stresses of a job, nice and relaxing. But it's not always that way. And again, I think it goes back to, and I've heard this over and over, like, how much did you get your meaning and purpose from your job? And if you're in retirement and that is gone, it can be tricky. And I know for me personally, yes, I have to be doing something where I feel like I'm, making a contribution. And that's what I'm doing here with this business. Trying to feel like I'm doing something and adding value. So that's important. I do also want to talk personally about this as well. It's kind of funny, and I found out there's another person who is similar to this situation. It's like, in the morning when I wake up, I can just be in the worst mood, and it's like, like I said, like Jeff, he has to walk on eggshells until I work out. And he even said the other day, he was like, yeah, getting that Schwinn bike back in COVID. That saved the marriage, right? Because I had some way to work out, and that's what I do. And I think when we work out, we get the dopamine or endorphins or whatever it is, whatever those things are called. They kick in place. I hate to say this because I'm sure this is wildly inappropriate, but it's like self-medicating, just exercising. And I've noticed that in the past. I mean, sometimes I've gotten into a bad mood and I am just like, and if I just jump on that bike and I just do it, it doesn't take, 10 minutes before that stuff starts. I'm getting those endorphins going and kicked in. So I think that's very important for people, especially if you feel like down and you get depressed and stuff. Like, really add exercise into your routine. It will very much help for most people. I'd say for me it does. I assume it does for a lot of you. I've heard that over and over. So do consider that as well. And for me personally too, I always thought I had to be doing cardio to get that in, to really get my heart rate going. And that's how it got the dopamine. Weightlifting does the same thing. Almost 10 minutes into my weightlifting, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling much better. Things aren't as bad as they were 20 minutes ago, type of thing. So I wanted to share that. Finally, I wanted to talk about pets for a minute because I think pets are, they really are helpful to folks, especially in retirement. I mean, they can the entire lives, but in retirement, having a pet can just add so much meaning to our lives. I know we have two dogs right now, and I just very much am so honored to have them in our lives. I kind of think, I say this, it's kind of funny. I think our dogs are way smarter than we humans are. They're just, there's laws of nature that don't allow them to tell us, that they're actually smarter than we are. Because I know one of my dogs looks at me sometimes and she'd be like, "You have completely lost it, dude. You just really need to get yourself together." So anyway, pets. I just wanted to put a plug in that they can be helpful. And I know I'm down here in this RV resort. We have a motorhome. We have a big windshield, and when I'm on my Peloton bike or doing weightlifting, I'm watching out that window in the morning, and I see all the pets that are taking their owners, their handlers or whatever you want to call it. These dogs, they're walking their people to do their morning constitutional, and I just love that. I think it is so cool to see that happen. Anyway, I think that's probably enough talk about investing in fitness. This is not, obviously, this is not something that's really typically part of a retirement financial plan. But to me, it is important, and I wanted to share that. Thanks again, and I look forward to other classes as well.